The 11th of March 2011, the worst earthquake in Japan's history struck the country's northeastern coast and triggered a massive tsunami. The Fukushima nuclear power plant underwent serious damage, and Japan braced itself for what could become a total nuclear disaster.
Japan has many nuclear power plants, and most of these are either unaffected or have shut down safely, showing the effectiveness of the safety measures. But there is continuing concern at Fukushima Daiichi.
Due to the failure of Japanese authorities to take timely measures to prevent further consequences of the incident, it has become a disaster and influenced greatly the nuclear policies of countries all around the world.
The IAEA has faced the most challenging situation since its establishment. We were afraid that everything we ever worked for could become nothing. We continued to work as hard as we could, but carrying deep in our hearts the fear of countries renouncing the peaceful aid.
At first it seemed that our world was crashing down. Germany has promptly shut down 8 of its reactors and pledged to close the rest by 2022. The Italians have voted to keep their country non-nuclear. Switzerland and Spain have banned the construction of new reactors. Japan's Prime Minister has called for a dramatic reduction in Japan's reliance on nuclear power. Taiwan's president did the same. Mexico has sidelined construction of 10 reactors in favor of developing natural gas-fired plants.
But as time went on, the Fukushima effect started to decrease. Nevertheless, the requirements for the nuclear power plant's safety became much more strict, and the alternative sources of power, as opposed to nuclear one, obtained an increasing number of followers.
Your fucking nightmare!
Hello, Alex. How's your peaceful atom?
Oh yeah, hello, yes, and everything is under control.
Good. By the way, is Mary there?
No.
Okay, switch me to the speakerphone. I need both of you.
Alright, done.
So, dear colleagues, how's your UN report?
Yeah, already done.
Just need some...
Polishing.
Good. Have you communicated with our foreign colleagues?
They've already sent us some data, but...
So...
Good. I'll be waiting for you both for the preview on Monday morning.
Right.
That's all. Have a great weekend.
Dear colleagues.
Morning.
So, I would like to start today's briefing with saying that the topic of our report, of my report in the UN, is the nuclear energy to be or not to be. So, I hope that you understand that your report should give the definite answer to this question. So, what do we have?
Well, the tendency in nuclear energy sector is quite positive now. As our colleagues will have shown, many countries now are eager to develop their nuclear sector.
Okay. Mary?
In addition to the video reports that we are going to present now, we can provide 4 major pros of nuclear energetics. But first of all, I would like to show you the reports from our colleagues. Our French colleague will give you a brief overview of the situation of nuclear energy in the European Union. Current situation in the European Union is different in different member states. While certain countries insist on nuclear phase-out to switch to other forms of energy, others are developing their nuclear energy sector. The French state has authorized full construction of the world's largest tokamak nuclear fusion reactor, ITER, with a formal decree to allow creation of a basic nuclear installation. The UK residents demand more nuclear. The Times survey found that 40% of almost 2,000 people polled felt that the UK government should use more nuclear power stations than at present, up from 35% in November 2011. As for Germany, the renounce for nuclear energy is expected to cost around $340 billion over 10 years in required investments alone, which represents over 3% of German GDP. Critically, the German shift is both increasing carbon emissions and electricity prices in Germany and might endanger the shift away from coal power in Europe. Overall attention to the European Union to the nuclear power is increasing, and average annual funding for nuclear research is expected.
Now our colleague from China will specifically analyze the present situation in Japan. Also, he will say a couple of words about China itself. Japan, the country where the Fukushima tragedy occurred, experienced all the awful consequences of such a disaster. By March 2012, all but 2 of Japan's nuclear reactors had been shut down. Some were damaged by the earthquake and tsunami. Authority to restart the others, after scheduled maintenance, throughout the years was given to local governments, and in all cases local opposition prevented restarting. The loss of 30% of the country's generating capacity has led to much greater reliance on natural gas and coal, which are imported. Yoshihiko Noda's government announced it would aim to end the use of nuclear power by the 2030s, but this has not yet been formally incorporated into the country's long-term energy strategy and is not legally binding. However, the debate on Japan's future energy policy has been put on hold by the announcement of the parliament election, so the outcome is still to be waited for. As for China, it plans a steady return to full-scale nuclear build, approving a small number of projects in each of the coming 5 years and restricting technology selection to the Generation 3 designs only.
And here goes our American colleague who will give you a brief insight into the US nuclear policy.
So, for any discussion of nuclear power in the US, the government policy is central. The nuclear energy industry in the US is very confident right now that President Barack Obama's second term in the White House is going to continue to oversee this continued need for the nuclear energy industry at the central position of the US energy policies. Just as Obama's mentioned that in his economic plan for the second term, there's going to be a need for a significant contribution from nuclear energy to achieve the administration's goals. Obama's also set a target of reducing US greenhouse gas emissions back to 1990 levels by 2020, and he's also looking to reduce them by a further 80% by 2050, with safe nuclear energy being used alongside other clean energy sources. There's also the possibility of the U.S. beginning laser enrichment of uranium. The U.S. Department of Energy is in preliminary discussions right now with Global Laser Enrichment about establishing such a facility in Kentucky.
Also, we have some other positive data about nuclear policies in such countries as Russian Federation, Australia, Czech Republic and some others. It will all be there in our written report.
Okay.
Of course, not everything is so perfect. We have information about Iran continuing its enrichment programs, including the installation of centrifuges. There hasn't been an agreement yet on a structured approach to resolving issues related to possible diversion to military applications of Iran's nuclear program. The situation is still unclear with Syria, North Korea, but these issues are related more to the non-proliferation program and nuclear weapons, so we don't think you should mention it in the official report.
Okay. So, to sum up, what are the main advantages of nuclear energy for the countries that we are able to present?
First of all, it's greenhouse gases and environmental protection. Nuclear reactors do not emit greenhouse gases or ash during normal operation. Also, nuclear waste becomes less radioactive all the time. After 50 years, 99.1% of radiation will be gone. Nuclear waste is also small in volume and accounts for less than 1% by volume of heavily toxic waste in industrial countries.
Concerning energy independence, in some nations there may be no viable alternatives. In the words of the French, we have no coal, we have no oil, we have no gas, we have no choice. So if they renounce the nuclear energy, they become hugely dependent on other countries in terms of importing the energy.
So, economics. Using nuclear power is more beneficial. For example, the countries denouncing nuclear power are turning to the renewable energy, and actually, the cost of many renewable energy sources would be increased if it included provision of necessary backup power sources to cover periods when wind, sun, waves, etc. are weak and not producing power.
And finally, about safety standards. Nuclear energy is one of the safest ever invented. Yes, there were such incidents like Chernobyl and Fukushima, but these are only two major issues. While working properly and in accordance with safety requirements of IAEA, and nuclear power plants are strongly reinforced and highly guarded. Considering the fact that after the Fukushima catastrophe the safety standards became even more tough, further incidents are highly unlikely to occur.
Okay, that's for guys and colleagues. So I will be waiting for the official documentation on Wednesday.
Come up to meet you, tell you I'm sorry. You don't know how lovely you are. I had to find you, tell you I need you, tell you I set you apart. Tell me your secrets and ask me your questions. Now let's go back to the start. Running in circles, coming in tails, heads on the sides apart. Nobody said it was easy. It's such a shame